So I think that's the perfect segue to introducing our final speaker of the night. So I'm super excited to introduce Dave, who is a partner at Playground Inc. He's a lecturer at Ryerson University, and he's a serial entrepreneur who's done a lot of interesting things. But his 3 fun facts are that he is an internationally ranked competitive pinball player. He started his first company at 14, and that company was making DVD copies of shitty family home VHS movies. And he has seen the popular American jam band Fish over 90 times. Dave, come on up here and share your fuck up.
Thank you. Yeah, I kind of live at the extremes a little bit. So my story, my fuck up starts 12 years ago, like a lot of fuck ups tonight, actually. But 12 years ago, does everyone remember this? You know, there was like this big fucking event with really cool people being like, we just changed the world, and this is so cool, and everything was happening. And it was a really different time in the world, right? We all still liked Facebook, right? We all liked Twitter, and like they didn't make any money yet or sell ads or anything, and university accounts and all that cool stuff. And people actually were like still enjoying the internet, and they weren't super skeptical about everything. And so we saw this thing, we're like, holy shit, this is amazing. There's so much going on here. And I knew I like just had to do something with it and do something about it. And yeah, that was me. Like I just became obsessed. You know, like I was writing software when I was a little kid. You know, something to do when you're watching shitty home movies for, parents for a long, long time. And I just got obsessed with it, started hacking around, started making software before like the App Store even came out. And I was just hanging out with friends and making things. And I was hanging out with these friends. One of these people doesn't live here. He works here at Shopify. That's my co-founder, Josh, and that's really young me with more hair. Yeah. And we decided, hey, like, let's just fucking quit our jobs and, like, make stuff for the internet, because that'd be cool, right? Like, everyone's like, let's just, like, make something. Let's do cool stuff. And this is kind of the story of Burstin, which is, like, the story of the company that never was. So, back in 2009, 2010, like, the coolest thing about Facebook was, like, you got tagged in a photo, you saw your friends' photos, you were all getting drunk, you know, you were like wearing really stupid clothes. It was like a really awesome time, and it was like a really big deal. And then the iPhone came out, and it was like a pain in the ass to get your photos online at the time. This is an actual chart from a slide deck that we were using to raise money. Wasn't so successful. But that line there, that pink line at the top, was the number of photos compared to other very, very popular cameras at the time that were posted to Flickr. And the iPhone, even then, with its like shitty camera and like really blurry photos and graininess, was outpacing everyone. There was like such an appetite for photos online, and we're like, fuck, photos, phones, internet, there's got to be something here. This is something so cool. I love doing this, and I'm really bad at it. And so we started a company to help people share photos online. And we just started telling people about it. We started making demos, and all of a sudden people were like, cool, this is awesome. We don't know what to do with you, but like, would you like us to help you in some way? So we went to our like old professors at Ryerson University, and we were like, hey, we have this idea, here's a demo, let's like see some stuff. You can just take a photo, and it went right online. And they're like, hey, we got this program called the DMZ, which some of you might have heard of, maybe. And they were just opening it. In fact, they didn't have a name for it yet. And they're like, well, if you want to just come work here, we'll give you some space. And so there was literally no paint on the walls. Like there's like, just computers on desks, and that's us working really late at night in press shots, because it's like, let's find entrepreneurs who look cool making stuff for the internet and get them, photos of them so we can send it to the newspaper. And we were like, yeah, awesome. And we were also like, yeah, we've also now been working for free and we don't have any money. And we would like ask everyone we know to introduce us to angels, and we'd start chasing around money. And people were like, oh, you're making a photo sharing app. Cool. How are you going to make money? And we're like, well, photos are important, and the internet's important, and we think that's really important. Do you? And they were like, yeah. And we're like, can we have some money, please? And they were like, no. And I was like, why not? And I asked them, and they would be like, well, you don't have like a business plan. Like this thing could never make money. You're just letting people post photos for free on the internet. How could that ever be fucking valuable? And I'm like, well, it's like infrastructure, man. Like, are the sewers valuable? You got to get stuff places. You got to move shit around. Like things have to get to where they're going, and the photos were pretty shit anyways, so, it was pretty apt. But finally, the Ontario government's like, oh, you're doing this thing. We'll give you some money. And we're like, oh, fuck, thank you. And they gave us just like a little bit of money. And it was fine. It was like 10 grand. It was like a forgivable loan, which is just like the Ontario government's excuse for like infusing the economy with entrepreneurs. But like 10 grand doesn't really do anything when you have rent and you got bills and like you haven't paid yourself in 4 months. But that's all good because we were making things and that was exciting. And we were making something that looked like this. And we launched an app in the summer of 2010 or 2011. It was a long time ago. About 4 months before another popular photo sharing app was launched. And we launched it here in Toronto, and like that was like a really cool thing, because everyone in Toronto really is like into the internet and networks really well, and like, are internet entrepreneurs, of course, right? Yeah, so we launched this thing, but it was fucking cool. We were growing with thousands and thousands of users, and people were using it all over the world. We were growing by thousands of users a night, and it was like, wow, couldn't believe it. We were watching people like, not know how to use it. We were watching people like take pictures of their commute home on the trains in Tokyo. We were watching people like celebrating and doing keg stands, taking pictures of their food. Who thought that would become a thing? So like we were seeing all this stuff that was happening, and we were like, this is so fucking cool. Will anyone give us any money? And this is what I felt like, It's like, please, won't someone notice me? Won't someone notice me? Like, I swear we're good people. I swear I'm not going to waste your money. I swear we're doing something important, I think. But please help. But then something did happen, and people started to notice. But, like, we were pretty tired at this point, to be honest. We had been working nights and days for free, basically, just trying to, like, make things happen. And this was an article in Toronto Life magazine. It was like the cover article talking about like internet entrepreneurs. People started writing about us, like TechCrunch started writing about us, and that's before they would write about anybody. Read Write Web was writing about us. All these things that I was like reading as like a college student, because I love technology, they started like noticing us, and I was like, this is fucking cool. And then like Instagram came out, and people loved that, and they had all this support. But we raised some money, and this is what I felt like. And we raised some money from an investor who gave us, like some, just a little bit of cash, and we had a couple people who started getting interested, and we had just enough money to start paying ourselves and paying some friends who were already helping us out to help us make this thing work. And, but they were really well-intentioned, but no one really trusted us with their money yet, because, like, entrepreneurs, young kids, who the hell knows, internet, what is that? And we had basically been eating $5 walk-in specials for close to 6 months at this point, because it was like the only food you could afford that you could feed 3 people with at one time. And so on one of these a day, we're like making ourselves sick. We're staying up all night. We're working our butts off. And we're making cool things. And we're just excited. We're still running on the enthusiasm. And like that money finally came in. And but it really wasn't great terms for us. There wasn't an angel network in Toronto. There wasn't a lot of serial entrepreneurs yet. There hadn't been a lot of exits, a lot of moments, and a lot of people to even learn from who had done stuff in social, had done stuff on the web, who had done stuff that vested them so that they can go and do that angel investing and do that seed investing in companies after that. And so the person who gave us money basically said, I'll give you this money for becoming basically an even partner with you guys who have done all this work. And we were like, please give us the money. And he slid that check across the table, and we were like, thank God. We cashed the check, and I think we got 2 pizzas that night. They were pretty good. I still wear these socks to kind of like remember that time. And I just ate pizza now. It really, this struggle really did not affect my love for pizza. So there we are. We have money. We're at the DMZ. We're hiring our friends. Look at all that energy. Now there's paint on the wall. There's like people there. It's not us in like a weird gray shack at the corner of Yonge and Dundas Square. And it's really becoming gentrified, right? It's like looking good. And our investors like, well, you're spending my money. Maybe you should move into my office. And we were like, yeah, of course, because like what do like cool internet entrepreneurs who want to feel good about themselves want to do? Give themselves a boss, right? And so that was a huge fucking mistake, and I think like, all of a sudden we had like another cook in the kitchen who like was just worried about the money we were spending all the time and like giving a report to every day and reporting in. And like also like kind of like the sadness and despair you can feel in the colors of like the office space and just all those things. Everyone's smiling because like, the paychecks are getting cash, but like otherwise, it's pretty bleak. And we were really just like running on fumes, and we were like trying to raise more money, right? Like you have more money, you're now on like that paper chase because like once you raise money, you now need more money because you start spending that money. And you got to pay off your other investors to get going. It really sounds like a Bernie Madoff situation, but I swear to God, there's like a light at the end of the tunnel sometimes. So we were like, oh, fuck it, we've got to get out of here. And we started just asking everyone we knew, like, we have to get out of Canada. We have to go to the US. And like, we didn't have any money, so we were never going down there. We weren't networking down there. We weren't doing anything down there. We were staying here, which was like a huge fuck up in and of itself. And everyone here was like, hey, we'll support you. And like, we were seeing all these messages being like, hey, like, look, we'll put you in a magazine. Hey, we'll give you this space. Hey, we'll put you on TV. We'll do all these things. And we're like, awesome. There's an amazing ecosystem here. There's people who understand and they get it. But they didn't understand like going down to San Francisco. It was like this. It was like, shit, you make stuff for the internet too? Like, you're cool? You like trying new things? And I was like, me too. And yeah, and it was like pretty incredible. You finally started to feel like things were happening. And that's when we realized we really did fuck up. We weren't even playing the same game as they were playing down there, right? We thought we had this great ecosystem up here, and we do now. It's been building. Like, it took these types of mistakes to get there. But, back then, going back 10 years, we didn't have, like, the network we have now. We didn't have those entrepreneurs we have now. We didn't have those visionaries we have now. It was just starting, And, like, yeah, there was some cool stuff before then. But the cool stuff before then was the BlackBerry, and we all know how that turned out, right? So, we get there and we're like, yeah, we're gonna raise more money. Like, yeah, these people totally get it. And everyone's like, yeah, this is cool. And like, Facebook's inviting us over for lunch and Google's inviting us over for lunch. And we're telling them all our secrets. We're telling them like just about everything. We're like, you're listening to us and you understand these acronyms coming out of our mouths? This is awesome. And so like, things are happening, things are great. And we're like, we really need to get this money. We need to get our investors off our back. We need to be able to do it because if we don't, like, we're gonna die. We've been eating pizza for a long time and not sleeping and just barely paying ourselves and losing our hair. And, like all this stuff is just going on. And we're like, okay, cool. And we get these meetings with these investors and they're like really famous investors. There's like pictures of them on the internet. no one put them there from my company. So, and we were like, yeah, you know what? Like, let's go over there and like, let's be really bold and ambitious. Let's ask for $750,000. If we could get $750,000, that would be fucking cool, right? And like we can make this happen, we can like pay ourselves, we can build a team, we can go back home, we can like support all the people we've hired, we can like not lay off people, we can do all of these great things. Because we're burning money like day after day after day after day, because like you have to pay people, and we don't make any money, as many potential investors pointed out. And so we're like, give this pitch, and the investors are like, yeah, totally, I totally get it. This is like, we get it. Instagram's blowing up, but like there's gotta be room for more. There's gotta be some cool stuff happening here. And we like pitch, and they're totally into it, and they're like, well, how much do you need? How much is it gonna take to make this vision happen? And we say $750,000. And they look back across the table and go, that's it? And we're like, so beaten down by everyone in Canada, like just being like, you don't have a business plan. We can't give you any money. You don't have like you don't have any experience. We can't give you any money. You don't have like a bajillion users. We can't give you any money. And we go down there, and the first person we talk to ask for money is thinking that we're not asking for enough money. And wow, right? You're like, why did I just waste that last year of my life? Because you weren't paying for flights. You were putting everything you had into making this thing work. You were talking to as many people as possible. You're doing lots of email introductions, but like, our big mistake was like not finding the people that were like us. We were too busy trying to please people that weren't, right? We didn't go and find our people. We didn't go and gather our community. We thought that community was being built around us, but we had to build it for ourselves. And so they came back, they're like, we wouldn't even cut a check for less than $2 million. It's not even worth the time. Not even worth the legal and paperwork. And we're like, holy shit, like what a different world. Like I felt like I was from like Mars or something. It was like really nuts. And we came home just totally dejected. Like we came home and we're like, are we gonna make this happen? And we were running out of money, like real fast. Like the deficit was like the line on our balance sheet, of like how much money we had left. And, we were so mentally exhausted. We were physically exhausted. We were mentally drained. And we were now beaten down. And we had a boss. And we, like, couldn't make this thing happen. And we were like, you want to know what? Like, we're throwing in the towel. And that was it. And, yeah, so that's the story of the app that never was. But like the things that came out of it were like pretty amazing. I got to meet amazing people throughout that process. I got to meet, some of the first people in Y Combinator. I got to meet my like now business partners that I work at Playground Inc., where we get to just make stuff for the internet all the time, which is something I love to do. As we've kind of like gone through that process, you realize like, hey, that was important because like maybe we didn't build that for ourselves, but maybe we were a small part of building the thing that's happening here. And I think like that's so cool. When I look around and I see like a building like this, you wouldn't imagine a software company like this 11 years ago in Toronto. And I'm taking no credit for it because these people are way smarter than us. Yeah, it was like just such a fun adventure. And I think like one of the things to think about is just like, you can love something so much, it'll kill you, and then you'll kill the company you made to build it. So like go find your community, find the people to support you, and like just don't get distracted by like the things and people that don't believe in you. Get behind the people who do, and don't waste your time, because like you could be doing something pretty cool, and you could be doing it for a lot of people. That's my big fuck up. I guess it's not that big, but thank you so much.
Hey, thank you so much for sharing that story. I think that was really inspiring and humbling to hear, and it's so cool to see like how far Toronto has actually come in these last 10 years, and what DMZ looks like now, and how much more of an exciting place it is now to build tech. But there's still so much more that we can learn from other tech ecosystems like Silicon Valley and other places out there. And especially with failure, like I think we've only really started to like fully embrace and share failure through Fuckup Nights about 2.5 years ago. Like San Francisco was so far ahead of that. Like there a lot of the time, like a founder, if they're presenting their idea and they haven't had like a failed startup before and they haven't learned from something before, they're not getting any money before they like kind of experiment and have a bigger fuck up. So thank you so much for sharing your story. Super inspiring to hear. Congratulations on your success with what you're doing now. And let's open it up to some Q&A. In the interest of time, we're just going to take a few. But yeah, let's kick it off over there.
Hi, thank you for sharing. That was a great speech and funny, and you learned a lot. It was great. Thank you. My question is, when you decided it was time to throw in the towel and end that, how do you communicate that to your investors and your team? How did they receive it, and just how did that process go?
Yeah, it was probably one of the more difficult things I've ever done in my life. And, you know, it was like no secret because we were a small team that like we didn't have much money and this is what we were going to do. It was like 3 people, 4 people in a room, like just making stuff happen. And, you know, how we decided was we said before that last trip, if like this doesn't work out, we have to go get jobs. So like it was like it wasn't like, oh, we decided after we got back or whatever. It was like we were done. Like we were mentally exhausted. We were beaten down. We weren't sleeping. Like we had like the biggest imposter syndrome before I think people were calling it imposter syndrome at that point. We just like didn't believe in ourselves. It wasn't what people were saying was good. They were like, you don't have a business plan, you don't believe in it. So we were like, okay, if we can't get this money, they're probably right. And we came home being like, they were wrong, but we still didn't get the money. So secure the bag, you know?
Another one over here.
That was a great presentation. Thank you. Especially your friend Chris right here told me that was like last minute preparation. My question to you is that looking back at where you were in the company and everything, were there a timeline that you wish that you stopped at? I know that you said, oh my God, like we wasted a year, we wasted a couple of years and all of that, but do you look at it and say, I wish we stopped at that point? What is that thing that you missed seeing there that could have led you to stop earlier? Thank you.
Thanks for that question. I actually don't think we wanted to stop. I think like we had like, you know, like just hit the point of exhaustion. You ever see the people like running a marathon who are like, I'm doing it, I'm doing it, I'm doing it, and then they piss themselves and they fall over? Like, that's actually what it felt like. And, you know, we were like, if we can't do this, like, we aren't doing this anymore. So, like, we wanted to. Like, we were trying our damnedest to make it happen. And it was just, like, a series of cataclysmic mistakes about, like, where we took our money from, where we located ourselves geographically, the advice we took, the things we started to believe because we were hearing them over and over again. Yeah, I don't think we would have stopped if we had like a different set of advice or a different set of circumstances.
Okay, so we'll do 2 more questions.
Hi. So yeah, just going back to how, so many people have been, telling you no at this point and you guys were getting exhausted and feeling let down. But how did you then stay, with all that adversity, how did you stay motivated? How did you keep going and keep trying to do this even though when no one saw the vision?
I think, watching people use something you've made
Right.
is super inspiring. And seeing people enjoying it, and doing things that you didn't think they were gonna do with it, was super cool. And just the act of creation, it's you read all these stories and you idolized all these people growing up of making things and doing things, and that was what I liked. It's what I loved, and I think that's what got us through. Is we were genuinely passionate for it, and we were seeing people using it, and we knew it was something. And like we kind of just got like numb to hearing no. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there. Thanks for that presentation. Can you maybe elaborate when you were going through some of the really difficult times, what the team dynamics were like? Did conflict arise among the team members? Did someone step up as a leader?
That's a great question. The way we dealt with like adversity at the time was working harder, but it wasn't like a spoken thing. It was like a thing where it's like, oh, fuck, that's not working. Well, I know what I can do, right? I know what I am good at, and I'm gonna like keep leaning into the things we are good at in order to get there. I think there was like a lot of nights where like you come into work the next day and everyone's kind of beaten down, right? And like no one is really like wanting to do things. There was like less healthy conversation about like the product and where it was going and what the users were. And you stop looking at that and you started getting obsessed with like, how do we stay alive? You know, and I think like you hear that message a lot, like, and like if you read any stories about people who have like gone through, you know, much harder things than this, like going through poverty and those types of things, like it's about staying alive, you know, and like you kind of like put your head down and maybe you neglect yourself emotionally, maybe you neglect the things you're feeling, but like you're just trying to scrap, you're just trying to get by. And I think like it was the fact that we were kind of like doing that together that brought us like closer. Like to say it was like a healthy thing where it was like, oh, we have all this amazing discourse. It wasn't. It was like, what can we do next? What can you do next? What can we do together? And it was like such a small crew that like, we all still loved each other. You know, we all were like, we'd seen some shit and like, we were like, okay, let's just do it. You know, we do this one more thing, we're gonna get there. We keep trying that one more thing over and over again. And I think like, yeah, we never fought about it. With nothing was like that. It was, you know, more so just like pure exhaustion. Like you just didn't want to talk to each other. You didn't want to hang out after work. You didn't want to like be at work super late anymore. You like just, yeah.
Great. So we will cap it there for the Q&A. If your questions didn't get answered, all the speakers will be sticking around for a little bit after the talk, so you'll have a chance to ask in person. Dave, thank you so much again for sharing your story.